Whispers in the Marsh. Chapter 1. Veils of Dawn. Fable Umber stood at the edge of Whispering Mound Marsh, enveloped in dawn mist that curled around her like a shroud. The first light of day crept in, illuminating dew-kissed reeds that whispered secrets of the night. Silence pressed down on her like a heavy stone, and she longed to sing her truth, to express the turmoil churning inside her without tearing her family apart. With only days left before the week's end, the burden pressing down on her chest felt unbearable. If she failed to connect through music, deceit would become her only reality, leaving her lost forever in the shadows of her own making. Fable's green eyes scanned the horizon, and she brushed her dark wavy hair behind her ear, the weight of her silence suffocating her. Fable took a deep breath, the chill of the morning air stinging her lungs. Ghosts of betrayal hovered around her, memories echoing like shadows between the trees. She closed her eyes, summoning the melody locked away, with words desperate to be unleashed, but as she opened her mouth, echoes of past betrayals clawed at her throat, stifling her voice. Every note felt heavy, burdened with the fear of another heartbreak. She hesitated, breath quickening as the relentless ticking of the clock filled her ears. Time slipped away from her, each tick intensifying her urgency, a countdown reverberating through the marsh, reminding her that options were dwindling. With each failed attempt to sing, isolation deepened. The mist thickened, mirroring the heaviness in her heart. "You'll only hurt them more," a voice whispered, her own doubts entwined with memories of those she loved. Each echo reminded her of deceit, a betrayal she hoped to hide behind the masks she wore. The more she tried to shield her family from pain, the more tormented she became, trapped in a cycle of guilt and fear. Beads of sweat formed at the nape of her neck, the truth a double-edged sword. The sun crested over the horizon, casting streaks of gold across the marsh, but warmth eluded Fable. A wave of panic washed over her as she glanced at the clock. Time was slipping away. The deadline loomed like a storm cloud overhead. If she didn't find the courage to sing her truth before the week was out, she would remain a mere spectre, haunting her family with lies. Her pulse thrummed like a war drum, urging her to act, but fear of their reaction paralyzed her. No more time for hesitation. Her family deserved to know, yet the thought of their pain sent her spiraling into chaos. Fable clenched her fists, the decision weighing heavily on her shoulders. As the last remnants of mist faded, she realized the quiet would cost her more than the fear of revealing her heart. With one final shuddering breath, she opened her mouth, ready to let the dusk draped itself over the Whispering Mound Marsh like a gossamer shawl, the air thick with the damp earthiness of the marsh and the sweet fragrance of wildflowers. Shadows stretched long and languid, the pale moonlight glimmering off the water's surface, turning the glistening bioluminescent algae into a starry carpet beneath. Fable Umber stepped carefully onto the yielding ground. Memories flooded her mind, quickening her pulse. The ancient willow trees stood sentinel, their long trailing branches brushing against her skin like whispered secrets of 1,000 betrayals. She paused, the eerie calls of night creatures echoing from the depths, wrapping around her like a shroud, amplifying the weight of her turmoil. Fable approached the grassy mound, its silhouette rising abruptly against the dusky sky. The rustling leaves sang the song of the marsh in her ears, a melody both haunting and inviting. Her shoulders slumped and her gaze dropped, burdened by unsaid words, mingling with the scent of wet soil and decaying leaves. It was as if the very essence of the place urged her to confront the truth she had buried deep within. The haunting melody of the song she needed to sing fluttered in her mind like a trapped bird. Would it bring solace or shred her family's already torn fabric? As she settled onto the mound, the cool grass brushed against her fingertips, grounding her in the moment. The twilight deepened, transforming the world into a palette of blues and purples, shadows dancing between the trees. A soft breeze whispered through the willows, sending a shiver through her body. But then a flicker of movement caught her eye. A shadow darted past, a reminder that the past was not done with her yet. A wild drumbeat of fear and resolve pulsed in her chest as she turned, ready to face whatever spectre lingered at the edge of the light. The rustling grew louder, brushing against her ears like the whispers of those she had betrayed. Her throat tightened, bitterness choking her as she struggled to see through the gathering darkness. The marsh seemed to breathe, the air heavy with anticipation.
Would she find the words to connect, or would the shadows of her past swallow her whole? With every breath, the metallic taste of the impending storm filled her mouth, tinged with dread. She had to choose, let the haunting melody consume her or transform her pain into a song of redemption. Just as the last light slipped below the horizon, plunging the marsh into a deeper darkness, Fable steadied herself. The shadows flickered again, shifting in a way that felt less threatening and more inviting. With her heart still racing, she opened her mouth, letting the first notes escape.
Dusk settled over the betrayal mound, casting elongated shadows among the marsh grasses. Fable Umber stood at the mound's edge, her heart heavy with the weight of her solitude. The air was thick with the scent of roasted frog legs from a nearby vendor, mingling with the earthy aroma of marsh root stew. Families gathered nearby, laughter and chatter filling the evening air, yet Fable felt the distance between them like an unbridgeable chasm. A cold breeze brushed against her skin, urging her to confront the darkness that loomed within. Her heart raced, a reminder of the choices she could no longer escape. Fable took a cautious step toward a shadow at the mound's base, her breath hitching as visions of those she had betrayed flickered in her mind. Faces turned away, eyes filled with disappointment. The distant clink of metal caught her attention as a miner emerged from the marsh, hands caked with mud. He nodded at her, but she barely responded, lost in her turmoil. The laughter of children playing nearby felt stark against her inner chaos. She gripped the small token of dried sedge fronds in her pocket, a remnant of the family traditions she clung to, even when doubt gnawed at her heart. As she approached the shadow, a shiver raced down her spine. Whispers from the elders echoed in her mind, "Avoid the marsh on moonless nights lest the spirits take you." Yet here she was, drawn into the darkness, as if it had a will of its own. The shadow twisted into familiar shapes that clawed at her heart, her childhood friend, once vibrant, now a haunting silhouette. Fable's breath quivered as memories surged, betrayals hidden away like secrets. The laughter of families faded into a dull roar, and she was left alone, ensnared by the shadow's haunting melody. Fable retreated a step, feeling the ground shift beneath her, as if the mound itself urged her to flee from the truth she had long avoided. With a shaky breath, Fable turned away, the shadow's grip loosening, yet still echoing in her mind. The sounds of the marsh returned, the distant call of a waterfowl, the rustle of reeds grounding her once more. She could glimpse her family's hearth, the warmth of their meal calling to her, but the spectres of her past lingered, deepening her unease. As she walked back toward the laughter, she clutched the token of sedge fronds tighter, whispering a silent prayer to Miriel, the guardian of the marsh, hoping for the strength to confront her past before it consumed her. The burden of her choices loomed large, a constant reminder that the shadows could not be outrun forever. Dusk settled like a heavy shroud over Whispering Mound Marsh, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers. Fable Umber stood at the water's edge, her pulse quickened, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down like a leaden sky. Only 3 days remained before the week turned, a deadline looming like a spectre. If she didn't find the courage to connect with her family through a song, her last chance to bridge the chasm of betrayal, she would be trapped in a lie forever. The haunting melody of her heart threatened to spill forth, but fear tangled her throat, choking back the words that longed for release. The wind whispered through the reeds, carrying a ghostly echo of laughter from the gathering by the fire. Fable clenched her fists, the token of sedge fronds biting into her palm. Memories of betrayal flooded her mind, the hurt in their eyes when the truth faltered. Voices echoed in her mind, questioning her loyalty and demanding answers she wasn't sure she could provide. The urge to sing her heart's truth clawed at her, but dread silenced the melody. What if her honesty only deepened their pain? What if they turned away from her again? Taking a deep breath, she wove a melody soft at first as she masked her turmoil beneath a veil of comfort. Each note floated out over the water, delicate yet heavy with the weight of her secrets. Shadows danced in the twilight, flickering in response to her ghostly tune, echoing her inner conflict. She felt the eyes of her family on her, 1,000 unasked questions hanging between them. The clock ticked in her mind, a relentless reminder that she had to act before it was too late. Darkness would engulf any chance she had left to make things right. As she sang, her voice shook, the melody faltering with the creeping doubt. The tune felt familiar yet betrayed her, each note a reminder of what she was hiding,
The more she sang, the more her stomach tightened, fingers trembling. Could they see through the facade? Would they hear the desperation lurking beneath her comforting tones? The shadows deepened, threatening to swallow her whole. A chill swept through the marsh, causing her spine to tingle. She stumbled over the notes, her voice breaking. She had to decide, continue the masquerade or risk everything in a moment of honesty. The decision loomed like a shadow, creeping ever closer, hungry to devour her silence. With the final notes hanging in the air, she paused, breathless. "In just 3 days the weight of my truth will crush me," she said, urgency lending weight to her words. She had to face the truth or risk losing herself entirely. The choice loomed, and the darkness crept closer, hungry for her silence.
Fable stood at the edge of Whispering Mound Marsh, dusk settling against her like a shroud. The last rays of sunlight shimmered on the water, reflecting the turmoil churning in her gut. The haunting melody that had echoed through her family's home now danced just out of reach, a bittersweet reminder of the connection she craved. With only 3 days left to decide whether to shatter their fragile peace with the truth or let silence fester, the weight of unspoken words pressed down on her, a relentless drumbeat urging her to act before darkness overtook her completely. The eerie atmosphere of the marsh, thick with the tension of past betrayals, seemed to echo her internal strife. With each lap of water against the shore, Fable turned away from the marsh. What if her family discovered her secret? Would they feel betrayed? The melody that once united them now felt like a funeral dirge for their trust. She swallowed hard, breath shallow, as the urgency of her choice pressed down on her. Each tick of the clock resonated in her mind, a reminder that silence could seal her fate, locking her into a lie that would suffocate her. If she didn't reach out now, the opportunity would slip away, leaving her forever trapped in deceit. Fable's hands trembled as she clenched her fists, the urge to flee battling against her desperate need for connection. The marsh's whispers seemed to taunt her, the water reflecting the fading light, a reminder of the truth lurking beneath the surface. What if their love fades away like the last light of day? She whispered to the trees, her voice barely audible against the sighing winds. Yet, in that moment of fear, another thought pierced through. What if revealing her truth could mend their fractured bonds? The melody echoed in her mind, urging her to step forward, plunge into honesty, but doubt's shadows tightened around her, gripping her heart. A sudden rustle in the reeds startled her, sending a jolt through her. She glanced over her shoulder, half expecting her family's faces filled with disappointment. But it was only the wind, the marsh, the creeping night. Panic surged within her, freezing her in place. She closed her eyes, trying to steady her breath. 3 days left, and each moment felt like a countdown to her own undoing. Would she let fear dictate her choices, or would she find the courage to confront the truth? Fable opened her eyes, staring into the murky depths of the marsh as if the water held the answers she sought. Truth can either stitch old wounds or create fresh scars. Each heartbeat reminded her of the urgency pressing down on her. She leaned forward, adrenaline surging, poised to dive into revelation or retreat into silence. Chapter 2. Echoes of Betrayal. Morning light filtered through the thick canopy of the betrayal mound, casting dappled shadows on the marshy ground. The air was thick with the scent of roasted frog legs sizzling on a nearby fire, mingling with the earthy aroma of fresh sedge fronds salad laid out on woven cattail platters. Fable Umber, a slender figure with tousled dark hair, crouched behind a thicket. Her pulse raced as her family gathered for their communal meal. They sat cross-legged on the damp earth, the murmurs of their conversation weaving into the symphony of chirping insects and rustling leaves. A small altar adorned with feathers and herbs glimmered nearby, a reminder of the spirits watching over them, whispering secrets of the past. The intensity of their scrutiny weighed heavily on her, making her stomach churn. Through the leaves, Fable caught sight of her brother Micah, dipping a bowl into the steaming marsh root stew. He ladled a generous portion into a clay bowl, steam curling upward and mingling with the morning mist. "Do you think the miners might uncover treasures, gifts from the earth that could reshape our destiny?" he asked, his voice low yet edged with excitement. The others leaned in closer, their eyes glinting with hope, or perhaps something darker. The prospect of the hidden truths beneath the surface rippling into their lives sent a thrill of anxiety through Fable.
May Ahelin's blessings cradle their hands, guiding them to the lost treasures of our past, veiled in the earth's embrace, her mother replied, her voice laced with both reverence and caution. She offered a hand-carved trinket to Micah, a gesture of respect that masked her unease. Fable's fingers twitched, itching to reach for something, anything to ground herself. Instead, she swallowed hard. The mention of riches stirred a tumult of anxiety and longing. If only their hearts could grasp the tapestry of truth, woven with threads as delicate as whispers, hidden beneath the surface of our feasts. The discussion flowed seamlessly, a dance of hopes and fears, each family member contributing. Yet, as Micah's voice broke through the fabric of their conversation, recalling the past, Fable's heart raced. "You remember what happened last time, don't you?" he asked, echoing the unspoken taboo. No one dared to speak the name of the vanished people aloud. To do so was to invite betrayal from the spirits, a lesson burned into her memory. Fighting against the rising tide of dread, Fable forced her attention to the warmth of their gathering. As the meal continued, her family shared laughter and stories, their voices rising and falling like the tides of the marsh. But amidst the warmth of their gathering, the whispers of the vanished people seemed to swirl in the wind, warning her of the danger lurking just beneath the surface.
Morning lights sliced through the trees surrounding the betrayal mound, illuminating her family's eager faces. Laughter swelled and receded like waves lapping at the shore, filling the air with a vibrant energy that contrasted sharply with Fable's growing dread. Every glance at her family, every shared bite of roasted frog leg deepened the chasm between them, and the truth loomed, a truth she had to voice before it spiraled into irreversible darkness. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying echoes of warnings from those long gone, reminding her that beneath joy often lurked danger. As she stood among them, the weight of their dreams pressed down, a stark reminder of the peril their excitement masked. Fable's pulse quickened as she leaned against the gnarled trunk of an ancient oak, a silent witness to her turmoil. Her family's faces were alight with dreams of gold and glory, mapping out their plans with fervor. "We'll stake our claim at the creek." "Just imagine it, Fable," her brother shouted, his eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. His excitement weighed down on her, suffocating her resolve. Words clawed at her throat, but excitement crackled around her, drowning her out. How could they not see the danger? The crowd swelled, eager voices rising, faces turning upward as her sister chimed in. "The creek will make us rich. We'll finally have what we deserve." An even heavier weight settled in Fable. Her sister's hands danced in the air, painting a picture of fortune that Fable could not bear to see. With each joyous proclamation, the truth coiled tighter within her like a venomous snake. She squeezed her eyes shut, imagining the earth beneath them, fragile and trembling, ready to swallow them whole. If they kept talking, kept dreaming, the land would exact its price. She had to make them listen. Fable's shoulders slumped as the chasm widened, swallowing her whole. How could she reach them when they clung to their fantasies like life rafts in a storm? Each unspoken word felt like a stone in her pocket, dragging her deeper into isolation. She turned away, the sounds of their laughter fading behind her, a painful reminder of their ignorance. The world beyond the mound loomed, dark and waiting, as her resolve twisted into a bitter knot. Time slipped through her fingers, urgency tinging her thoughts with dread. If she didn't act, the land would exact its price, and their dreams would be swallowed by the very earth they sought to conquer. The betrayal mound loomed behind her, a monument to choices not yet made. She paused, glancing back at her family, still lost in their visions. An ache settled in her chest, a haunting realization. She was the keeper of a truth they refused to see, and she must find a way to break through the walls they had built. But how could she shatter their dreams without shattering them? Fable drew a deep breath, steeling herself for the confrontation that lay ahead. This was her moment, the tipping point where truth and loyalty would collide. The betrayal mound loomed behind her, an ancient sentinel to the storm of choices brewing within. Fable stood at the edge of her family's gathering, the air thick with the scent of earth and hope. Voices bubbled with excitement about the prospecting rush just beyond their horizon. Laughter mingled with the crackle of anticipation, a melody that both lured and repulsed her. Each note echoed her burden, a truth knotted in her stomach. If she didn't act, if she didn't reveal the shadows lurking within her, the laughter would transform into a dirge of despair. She shifted her weight, grounding herself in the moment, willing her feet to move toward the warmth of her family even as dread quickened her pulse. Fable stepped closer, the voices sharpening, a whirlwind of dreams and desires swirling around her.
Just think of the treasures waiting for us. Can you feel how it could transform our lives?" Her brother's voice rang out, buoyant and bright. Her stomach twisted. Transform their lives? They were on the precipice of a dream. But at what cost? Fingers fidgeting with the hem of her shirt, the fabric worn and familiar, grounded her in this world yet bound her to a secret that could unravel their joy. How could she shatter their dreams without drowning in regret herself? The laughter of her family swirled around her like a sweet poison, adrenaline flooding her veins. They painted pictures of riches and prosperity, oblivious to the shadows creeping at the edges of their dreams. Fable opened her mouth, words lodged like stones in her throat. She wanted to cry out to warn them, but what would they see in her? A ghost, a spectre haunting their hopes. Her hands trembled, icy despite the summer sun, as she weighed her truth against the buoyancy of their joy. How could she bear to strip away their light? A gust of wind swept through the gathering, rustling the leaves and igniting a spark of resolve within her. Fable squared her shoulders, tension pooling in her chest, morphing into determination. What if we could sing together? The idea sparked, like flint against steel. The song of their ancestors echoed in her mind, a harmony that could bridge the gap between her hidden self and the family she loved, but silence held her back. The fear of rejection tightening its grip. Would they listen? Would they understand? As she moved forward, the faces of her family turned toward her, eyes bright with expectation. The moment felt charged, a taut string pulled between them. She opened her mouth, her voice trembling like a wildflower in a storm. What if the gold holds secrets we can't yet see? The words slipped into the air, soft yet heavy, a truth.
Morning dew clung to the vibrant sedge fronds framing the betrayal mound, where the sun cast a golden hue over the gathering family. The warm, earthy scent of marsh root stew wafted from a nearby pot, mingling with the laughter that echoed around Fable Umber. Her family shared roasted frog legs and fresh salad, their spirits ignited by dreams of prospecting, yet Fable's shoulders slumped under the burden of her truth, starkly contrasting their fervour, her thoughts a tangled mess amidst the camaraderie. The betrayal mound stood tall, its weathered symbols a reminder of the past, as the community's hopes hung in the air, charged with the tension of uncertainty. Fable edged closer to the circle, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched a small carved trinket, a token of respect made from driftwood. Her mother, Talia Wren, animatedly described the glittering wealth beneath the marsh, her voice alive with excitement. Fable paused, watching her mother's fingers dance, recalling ancestral stories, especially whispers warning against greed. The thought of revealing her secret felt like stepping into the dark, moonless night, an invitation to the spirit's wrath. "God's willing we'll be rich," her brother shouted, and cheers erupted, drowning out Fable's resolve. She cleared her throat, the words slipping away like fish on a hook. "I need to," but the roar of her family's enthusiasm swallowed her whole. Her father, a miner with hands roughened from toil, raised a bowl of mound grain porridge, its texture rough yet nourishing. To new beginnings, he declared, eyes sparkling with dreams of a life beyond the marsh. Fable's stomach churned, the heaviness of her unspoken truth tightening around her throat. Around them, street vendors shouted their wares, the air thick with the scent of smoked waterfowl, a feast for the fortunate, while her truth remained trapped inside, suffocated by the clamour of hope and ambition. With each cheer, Fable slipped deeper into the shadows, her presence fading among the living. She caught a glimpse of her cousin, a young herbalist, mixing herbs with deft focus. The marsh root stew felt like a lead weight in her gut. She had always believed embracing their ancestry was strength, yet here she was, fearful of her lineage's weight. "We'll make it big this time," her sister chimed in, eyes alight with dreams. But their excitement felt like a betrayal of her identity, a truth threatening to unravel everything they cherished. As the sun climbed higher, a frantic rhythm thudded in Fable's chest, and time slipped through her fingers like marsh water. She clasped the trinket tighter, its warmth a reminder of her connection to the spirits of the marsh. "I just want you to understand me," she whispered, lost in the jubilant noise. The silence around her felt more perilous than any prospecting rush, leaving her feeling unseen and unheard as she stood amidst her family. The laughter and cheers faded behind Fable Umber, swallowed by the encroaching shadows of the whispering mound marsh. She stood at the edge, the cool, damp earth sinking beneath her bare feet, anchoring her to reality. The marsh shimmered under the dusky sky, an ethereal glow weaving through the branches, illuminating memories of whispers and betrayals that flitted through her mind, Tracing the contours of the wooden trinket in her palm, she breathed in the rich scent of damp earth and decay. A reminder of the spirits that lingered here, discussions of the prospecting rush floated through her thoughts, a promise of wealth, hope, and the peril that accompanied silence. Her secret felt like a heavy weight pressing down on her, would, revealing her nature, shatter the fragile bond with her family. A rustle from the underbrush sliced through her contemplation. Fable froze, her heart racing, tension gripped her shoulders, each muscle coiling tightly. She glanced toward the sound, breath shallow, waiting for a figure to emerge. Was it the wind or something more sinister? Her gaze darted, shadows twisting, teasing her with the unknown. The urge to retreat into the Marsh's comforting embrace tugged at her, yet the desire to confront her fear clawed within. Would they still love her if they knew? The glow dimmed as the sun sank deeper, transforming the marsh into a canvas of shifting shapes. Fable stepped closer to the water's edge, the squelch of mud beneath her feet grounding her in this moment of uncertainty. The prospectors spoke of riches, but what was the cost? Each whispered conversation she had overheard echoed in her mind, a haunting melody calling to those who dared to dream. Yet dreams held shadows, and in those shadows doubt festered. She could feel the spirits swirling around her, their presence urging her to choose, reveal her truth, or cling to the illusion of safety. The trinket pulsed in her palm, a steady heartbeat anchoring her to the weight of her decision. The choice was hers alone, but the stakes felt impossibly high. Another crack of a branch made her jump, panic gripping her throat, restricting her breath. She crouched low, heart racing, each thud a reminder of the danger lurking just beyond her grasp. Would they see her as a ghost tied to this marsh, or as Fable, the girl they loved? Anxiety thickened the air around her, and she felt the urge to shatter the silence with her voice, the one thing that might bridge the chasm between them. But what if her song betrayed her? With each passing moment, the choice loomed larger, the consequences spiraling outward like ripples in the water. Could she bear the weight of their betrayal? A gust of wind swept through the trees, igniting determination within her. Fable raised her voice, trembling yet steady, and
Chapter 3 Echoes of Unveiling. The whispering mound marsh lay cloaked in dusk, shadows stretching like fingers across the water's surface, merging with the encroaching night. Fable Umber stood at the water's edge, her breath a quiet whisper amid the thickening air. The sun dipped behind the horizon, splattering the sky with hues of purple and gold, a stark contrast to her turmoil. The miner's gaze haunted her thoughts, a flicker of light in the dark. Would he unravel her carefully woven lies? The marsh's whispers echoed her indecision, reminding her of the choices ahead, where truth and deception collided in a dangerous dance. All she wanted was to reach her family. Yet here she stood, teetering on the brink of exposure, a spectre in her own life. Fable clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms as the cool water lapped at her feet, urging her to flee. But where could she go? Every path led back to them. The miner's voice lingered in her mind, rich and warm like earth after rain. You sing like the spirits of the marsh. Fable, don't hide from me. A tremor ran through her. Could he see her? The girl who once danced among the reeds? She cursed the tide of hope surging within her. Hope was dangerous. It could shatter her world in an instant. Yet the thought of losing her family stirred a deep panic, pressing down on her like the evening mist. As she stepped closer to the water, the murky depths reflected the last of the sunlight. Her reflection shimmered, framed by the silhouettes of ancient willow trees that whispered secrets to the wind. She reached out, fingertips skimming the surface, rippling the illusion of her existence. Would they embrace her truth or recoil in fear? Fable's heart raced. The truth loomed before her, and she yearned for the moment when honesty might cut through the web of lies she had spun. But the fear, oh, the fear clutched her throat, suffocating her resolve. The thought twisted like a knife, and she stilled, ensnared in her own creation. The wind rustled the reeds, weaving a haunting melody that intertwined with her memories. Each note echoed her past, the laughter of family, the warmth of shared meals, the comfort of belonging. Yet beneath it all, shadows of her deception loomed larger. She had danced in the light, but darkness crept in, blurring the lines between truth and illusion. Fable turned, scanning the horizon where the sun dipped below the trees. What if I told them? The question hung heavy in the air. Would they understand her love, or only see the ghost she had become? As the final light faded,
She inhaled deeply, steadying herself against the encroaching night. The tension in her
Morning light filtered through the tangled branches of the canopy, casting whimsical patterns across the marsh's surface. Fable Umber stood hidden behind a gnarled tree, her breath blending with the earthy aroma of damp moss and the sweet fragrance of wildflowers that danced on the gentle breeze. A distant tune, a hint of laughter from days long gone, stirred within her. The air around her felt heavy, thick with unspoken truths and lingering regrets. The miner was nearby, his tools glinting like shards of a forgotten past, curiosity igniting a spark in his eyes. Each heartbeat quickened her pulse, underscoring the urgency of her mission, to shield her buried sorrows from his discovery, to keep the whispers of her past undisturbed beneath the surface. Fable stepped cautiously forward, the marshy ground squelching softly beneath her ethereal form. A shiver rippled through her as a metallic scent blended with the acrid tang of sweat wafting toward her. The memory of betrayal resurfaced, trust had once crumbled like brittle leaves. "Ah, you seek the truth, my dear, drawn like a moth to a flickering flame, yet blind to the shadows that weave their tales in the light," she said, her voice flowing like a silken thread, melodic yet underscored with urgency. Some truths, however, linger like whispers in the marsh, best left to slumber away from prying eyes. The miner straightened, brow furrowed with determination. "Listen, you don't get it. There's something buried here, something powerful. I can feel the ground pulse like it's alive." His hands fidgeted with his tools, betraying his excitement. Fable's shoulders sagged, her gaze falling to the ground. "What you search for will only bring pain, not clarity. Trust me, I know secrets can be as heavy as stones." He turned, eyes glistening with fervor. "But what if it's not just a secret? What if it's a story waiting to be told, a melody to be sung?" The weight of his words struck Fable like a sharp breeze, awakening memories of joy and music that had once filled her world. She moved closer, the essence of her forgotten family hanging in the air, sweet yet sorrowful. "Stories can haunt us, Miner. They can cling to our souls, an uninvited shadow that never leaves." Fable's fingers twitched, an urge to reach out and touch the remnants of her past surrounding them. She hummed softly, a tune once filled with joy, now a haunting lament for what was lost. The miner paused, intrigue replacing his determination. "Is that a song?" he asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. "What lies buried in the past?" The moment stretched, taut with potential. Fable opened her mouth to share her truth, to confess her depths of sorrow and yearning. The morning sun filtered through the mist of Whispering Mound Marsh, casting an ethereal glow on the landscape. Fable Umber, a willowy figure with tousled golden hair and green eyes that sparkled with mischief, stood hidden among the ancient willow trees. Their bark hung low, creating a curtain of mystery as the delicate whispers of the leaves danced in the air. Anticipation coursed through Fable as they focused on the miner, a rugged figure with a determined expression, resolutely digging into the damp earth. The marsh was alive with the scent of wet soil and wildflowers, contrasting sharply with the gravity of the moment. Today was pivotal. Fable's palms sweated as they planned how to instill fear in the miner before he uncovered something dangerous. Fable concentrated, summoning eerie sounds from the depths of the marsh. The rustling of unseen creatures echoed around them, and dark shapes flitted just beyond the miner's line of sight. "You should turn back." Fable's voice rang out, distorted by the wind, but the miner continued, his greed blinding him to the danger. He brushed aside the whispers, driven by the promise of treasure hidden beneath the earth. As the miner's shovel struck something solid, Fable's stomach dropped. He unearthed a peculiar glowing artifact, its luminescence illuminating his face with an eerie glow. Thoughts collided in Fable's mind. This was no ordinary find. They had to act fast. The air crackled with tension as Fable's illusions escalated, shadows lengthening, and the marsh itself seeming to pulse with ancient energy. Yet the miner, undeterred, grinned as he grasped the artifact, his eyes gleaming with ambition. With the miner's discovery, a heavy silence fell over the marsh. Fable clenched their fists, determination hardening their resolve to escalate their efforts. They could not allow this treasure to see the light of day. The consequences would be dire. Gathering their courage, Fable stepped from the shadows, ready to confront the miner. The tension hung thick in the air, and a thrill of determination surged through Fable.
This was their home, and they would defend it at all costs.
Dusk draped the whispering mound marsh in shades of violet and silver, the air thick with the earthy scent of dampened grasses and the sweet perfume of wildflowers. Fable Umber lingered by the water's edge, her fingers tracing the dew-kissed cattails swaying in the evening breeze. The soft croak of frogs echoed around her, mingling with the distant laughter of families gathering for their evening meal. Smoke curled from nearby cooking fires, carrying the enticing aromas of roasted frog legs and marsh root stew, memories of simple joys that felt increasingly distant. As she stood there, her thoughts danced with the melodies of the past, whispering like spirits of the vanished, urging her to make a choice before the night deepened. Fable's stomach growled, a reminder of the communal meal she had skipped. Nearby, a group of marsh farmers settled around a fire, sharing stories while ladling steaming mound grain porridge into bowls. The warmth of their laughter pierced through her unease, yet she remained rooted to the spot, uncertainty binding her. What would they say if they knew her truth? The idea coiled in her mind, but hunger gnawed at her resolve. She turned to her own simple meal of sedge frond salad, the tartness of wild berries mingling with bitter thoughts. If she could just blend in and hide among the shadows of her family, perhaps her truth would remain buried. Safe from prying eyes, Fable caught sight of a figure approaching from the path, a miner, his clothes dusty from toil. He paused, nodding toward her with casual respect, but his gaze lingered, as if he could see right through her. She returned the gesture, her palm open, but a flicker of anxiety sparked within her. The miner's rough hands reminded her of the truths she buried deep. Would he unearth them just as easily as he did with the earth? The wind picked up, rustling through the reeds, and Fable almost heard whispers of the vanished. She remembered her mother's warnings about spirits roaming on moonless nights, seeking those who dared to speak their names. If the miner pressed her, would she falter, or could she confront the truth? A flicker of resolve sparked within her, but uncertainty loomed. She could taste the salt of unbidden tears mingling with the wild berries, a reminder of the choices ahead. As the last light dwindled, Fable stood at the water's edge, the surface shimmering with the first glimmers of stars. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken truths, heavy with the promise of change. Her family's laughter faded into the background, replaced by the distant croak of frogs and the whisper of the wind through the marsh. She glanced back toward the miner, who now watched her, silence enveloping them, filled with possibilities and fears. In that moment, the weight of her unshared song pressed down on her, a melody of honesty and pain, begging for release. The marsh seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her to choose. Dusk draped whispering mound marsh in a veil of deep blues and purples, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and simmering marshroot stew. Fable Umber stood at the water's edge, her fingers brushing the cool reeds, feeling their texture against her skin. The low hum of family gatherings echoed in the distance, laughter, the clinking of bowls, and the soft strumming of a lute that stirred bittersweet memories. As the sun surrendered to the horizon, she clutched a small hand-carved trinket tightly in her palm, a token of respect and an offering for her family. The marsh's whispers urged her to confront the truth she had long buried, a truth that felt inescapable tonight. The enticing aroma of roasted frog legs wafted through the air, drawing families in with promises of quick bites before their evening meals. Fable's stomach growled, but she hesitated, her gaze fixed on the glimmering water, reflecting the twilight sky. Memories of hearty meals by the fire flooded her mind, filling her with warmth as she recalled her mother guiding her hands in the preparation of mound grain porridge, a staple that soothed the coldest nights. But tonight felt different. Uncertainty twisted within her, a simmering tension that matched the flickering fireflies surrounding her. The strum of the lute cut through her reverie, pulling her from the depths of her thoughts. The familiar melody wove through the marsh, a beckoning to spirits she had long avoided. A tug at her heart pulled her from her reverie. "May the flame protect us," she whispered, a prayer to Muriel, the guardian of the marsh. She had never sought divine intervention, but tonight the weight of her choice demanded more than silence. As the last notes faded, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Perhaps honesty could be her redemption, a chance to reclaim the connection she had lost. From the far side of the marsh, she spotted her brother, his silhouette framed against the fading light as he shared a bowl of sedge frond salad with their neighbors. The bright, carefree laughter anchored her, heavy and immovable. How could she face them after hiding so much? The obligation to address her brother as master of the marsh weighed on her,
yet the thought of secrecy gnawed at her like hunger. Would they accept her, or would she become a ghost in her own family? A sudden rustle in the reeds startled her, and she turned to see a fisherman deftly hauling in his catch, nodding towards her with silent acknowledgement. Envy twisted in Fable's stomach. He lived his truth, drawing sustenance from the marsh without fear. She lingered in the shadows of her own deceit, the marsh's whispers taunting her. As the first stars pierced the twilight canopy, she took a deep breath, inhaling the mingled scents of roasted frog legs.
Chapter 4 Vale of Echoes. Dusk draped the whispering mound marsh in a shroud of shifting light, the pale moon casting ethereal reflections on the water's surface like ghostly whispers. Fable stood at the water's edge, her toes sinking into the cool, squelching earth, dampness creeping up her ankles. The air was thick with the rich scent of wet soil and wildflowers, a sweet contrast to the eerie silence enveloping the marsh. Ancient willow trees leaned protectively over the grassy mound, their long trailing branches swaying gently, beckoning her to delve into family memories. The world around her pulsed with anticipation, as if the very marsh held its breath, waiting for her song to shatter the stillness. With a deep breath, Fable let her voice rise, the haunting melody escaping her lips like a soft sigh into the dusky air. The notes wrapped around her, intertwining with a gentle rustle of willow leaves, creating an otherworldly harmony. The presence of her family swirled around her, their laughter ringing out like chimes caught in a breeze, each note a reminder of joy once shared. The bioluminescent algae in the water flickered to life, casting a soft glow that illuminated the faces of those she missed, their smiles radiant against the encroaching twilight. But as she sang, a chill gripped her bones, constricting her chest with the weight of a forgotten truth. The joy of her family, once vibrant and real, began to fade like the last glimmers of sunlight slipping below the horizon. The sweet scent of wildflowers turned bitter on her tongue, a reminder of the deception that clung to her spectral existence. The squelch of the marsh beneath her feet felt more like a warning now, each step deeper into the mire pulling her further from the warmth of their memories, deeper into the cold embrace of reality. The echoes of her family's laughter drifted away, haunting and distant. The truth of their joy struck her, revealing itself as a mirage built on the fragile fabric of lies. The willow trees, once guardians of her spirit, now loomed like sentinels of her grief, their whispers turning into a cacophony of doubt. Fable hesitated, her voice faltering as the realization hit her. This happiness, this connection, was an illusion, and shadows danced around her, thickening in the mist as the ground shifted beneath her, the marsh's breath quickening, mourning the loss of authenticity. Her heart raced, the ground felt unsteady, the cool dampness of the earth a reminder of her own instability. She closed her eyes, the song teetering on her lips, knowing that to sing was to risk everything. Yet she yearned to connect, to reach out to the specters of her family one last time. With a deep, trembling breath, she steadied herself, letting the melody flow from her like a river of longing, each note echoing the truth she wished to share. As the last At dawn, whispering Mound Marsh emerged from a veil of fog, the pale light filtering through the mist like Fable Umber's tangled thoughts. 3 days remained, a fleeting whisper in time, to reach her family through a melody that had long felt deceptive. The air hung heavy with dew, each droplet shimmering with the weight of her secret. Fable stood at the marsh's edge, her pulse quickening with each beat, echoing like a distant drum. Today marked the moment to confront her existence, to connect with them genuinely or remain forever shrouded in lies. She could almost hear their laughter, a warmth reminiscent of distant memories, but doubt gnawed at her. Would they still love her if they discovered the truth? Fable called out, her voice trembling with the weight of unspoken words. Beloved shadows of my past, I beckon you with a heart full of unspoken melodies. The mist thickened, and she strained to hear their footsteps. When they emerged from the fog, smiles lighting their faces, a flicker of hope sparked in her chest. Yet their joy chilled her, a stark reminder of the truth she concealed. They couldn't see the spectral nature of her existence, the haunting echo of the daughter they believed she was. As they approached, guilt constricted her chest, making it hard to breathe. If only they knew, would their smiles shatter? Fable's voice faltered, caught between the desire to sing the song of connection and the fear of unveiling her truth. A secret has haunted my heart, lingering in silence between us, she began, but a sudden rustle in the reeds interrupted her thoughts. A shadow moved, lurking just beyond the tree line, and her heart plummeted. Panic gripped her, a weight pressing down on her chest.
Time slipped away, and this could ruin everything. If her secret surfaced now, all hope would vanish, leaving her to live a lie, forever entangled in the fog of her existence. "Fable, are you all right?" Her father's voice cut through her turmoil, concern lacing his words. She turned to the mist, the shadow growing bolder, drawing closer. "I need to tell you," she began once more. But the entity stepped into view, its form shifting like smoke. It locked eyes with her, and recognition chilled her. It embodied her guilt and fears, relentless in its quest for the truth. Her family stood oblivious, waiting, while the relentless ticking of the clock echoed in her mind. If she didn't act now, she would lose them, not just today, but forever. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, drowning out all else, as the shadow loomed, threatening to expose her. "Fable," they called again, joy radiating from their eyes, yet it felt like a knife twisting in her gut. Could she sacrifice their happiness for the sake of honesty, or bury the truth deeper, allowing the lie to fester? The choice spiraled in her mind, demanding resolution. Time seeped.
The morning mist clung to the betrayal mound like a veil, wrapping around Fable Umber in a chilling grip. She stood at the edge, her pulse raced, thudding against her ribcage as the weight of her spectral secret loomed over her. If she didn't confront the new entity lurking in the marsh before the week ended, it would expose her true nature, shattering the delicate connection she had painstakingly woven with her family. 3 days remained to silence the spectre of her past, to keep the music alive between them, and preserve the illusion she had crafted. The air crackled with urgency, each breath a reminder that time was slipping away. Fable stepped forward, her breath shallow, the damp ground squelching beneath her boots. "Please, hear me out," she began, but the entity materialized from the shadows, a swirling mass of lost souls and regret. Its voice, an eerie resonance, filled the air. "You think you can deceive them? I see through your facade, Fable. They will know. Time is not your ally. By dawn the truth will emerge, and your family will shatter under its weight." Gasping, her hands trembled as she gripped her neck. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to meet the entity's gaze. "I can weave a shield around them. Just grant me a moment." A chilling laugh reverberated through the marsh like a death knell. "Protect them? You're already a ghost in their eyes. The moment you chose silence over truth, you doomed them. I was once like you, tethered to a world I could no longer belong to. My family, my music lost forever because I hid from who I was. You think you're stronger? You're weak. A puppet dancing on strings crafted by your own guilt. In 3 days you'll lose everything. Can you bear that?" Fable's pulse drummed a frantic rhythm in her ears. The air pressed down on her, a heavy weight that tightened around her. The time to act was now, but how could she muster the courage to confront this truth? With each word, the spectre's accusations burrowed deeper into her mind, threatening to shatter her resolve. Fable clenched her fists, desperation flooding her thoughts, the music she longed to share with her family, the harmony of connection, it all hung by a thread. "I won't let your darkness tear us apart," she shouted, though doubt gnawed at her insides. Could she truly keep her family safe if the truth was about to surface? The marsh pulsed with warning, thick with impending doom. Each tick of the clock echoed in her ears, a relentless reminder of her impending failure. Fable's breath came in ragged gasps as she faced the entity, its relentless gaze piercing through her defenses. She stood at the edge of despair, her heart racing as she realized everything could slip away. "You're wrong. They must hear my truth." The spectre's twisted smile deepened, as if tasting her desperation. "Can you?" The morning fog clung to the betrayal mound like a shroud, veiling the ancient stone carvings that whispered tales of treachery from centuries past. Sunlight penetrated the mist, casting an ethereal glow over the circular platform, where the air hung heavy with the earthy scent of damp moss and the faint tang of brackish water from the surrounding marsh. Fable Umber stood at the edge, pressing her palms against the slick stone, its coolness anchoring her amid the turmoil. The distant sounds of water lapping against the mound echoed in her ears, mingling with the soft rustle of reeds swaying in the breeze, a reminder of the life that thrived just beyond her reach. Voices began to rise in the distance, merging into a murmur of anticipation as the community gathered, oblivious to the storm brewing within her. Fable took a deep breath, the moist air filling her lungs with desperation. She turned, her eyes scanning the perimeter for the entity, the rapid thud of her heart echoing in her ears. "Please grant me your silence, my family. They must remain in the dark. If they learn the truth, all will fracture, like fragile glass," she urged, her voice trembling as it shattered the tension in the air.
The entity, a shadowy figure, loomed at the edge of the mound, its form flickering like a candle flame, a testament to the betrayal it harbored. The chill of its presence seeped into her bones, stirring a primal fear within her. "You think you can bargain with me?" it hissed, the sound like wind rustling through dead leaves, cold and unforgiving. "Your family, they turned their backs on us, and now you want my help?" Fable's stomach knotted, the taste of bile creeping up her throat as the entity's words twisted like a dagger. "I understand your pain," she continued, stepping closer, the rough stone digging into her palms as she clung to it for support. "I shall sing for you, weaving your tale into the very fabric of our community's memory, ensuring you do not slip into the shadows of obscurity. But you must promise to keep my truth hidden, just for a little while longer." The air thickened between them, charged with the weight of unspoken truths and the distant echo of the gathering crowd. The entity's eyes glimmered, a dark void swirling with memories of betrayal, but a hint of something else flickered within, curiosity, or perhaps a glimmer of hope. "And what would you give, Fable? What are you willing to sacrifice to maintain this illusion?" Fable hesitated, her mind racing, thoughts tangling like the reeds swaying in the marsh. The reality of her existence loomed like a shadow, threatening to engulf her. "I will pay any price. Just please don't reveal what I am." The mist swirled around them, obscuring the world beyond the mound, as if time itself had paused to bear witness to her desperate plea. The entity's silence was deafening, the tension between them a tightrope stretched to its limits. "You think a song will buy you time?" it challenged, each word echoing the betrayal.
The dusk wrapped whispering mound marsh in a twilight embrace, colors blending softly like whispers in the wind. Fable Umber stood at the water's edge, her reflection shimmering in the gentle ripples that seemed to echo her inner conflict. As the week drew to a close, she grappled with her deception, a shimmering mask that brought laughter to her family but left her feeling trapped. If she didn't connect with them through song soon, the consequences would be irreversible. She faced a pivotal decision: unveil her truth or continue the charade that elicited both joy and guilt, a choice that felt increasingly impossible to bear. Each heartbeat felt like a soft chime, reverberating in the stillness around her. 3 days remained until her ruse would become a permanent prison. The last rays of sunlight flickered, and fear coiled around her throat. Laughter drifted from the gathering fire, a melody that tugged at her heart. They believed in the spirit she pretended to be, yet the thought of disappointing them gnawed at her resolve. Could she risk shattering their joy? The beauty of the marsh felt like an ironic twist, the fireflies flickering like stars caught in her eyes. Fable clenched her fists, fighting against the tears that threatened to spill. Each moment spent in silence was a dagger, piercing deeper as she wrestled with her guilt. The golden light of dusk faded, dimming her determination. Her brother's laughter echoed in her mind, his innocent belief in the myth she had conjured. Would revealing the truth mean losing him forever? A distant croak of a bullfrog interrupted her thoughts. Anxiety bubbled within her. If she didn't sing before the week ended, she would be ensnared in this deception for life. But how could she bear the burden of their joy turning to betrayal? Fable sank to her knees, the damp earth cool against her skin, anchoring her in the reality of her choice. Shadows gathered, hinting at the loneliness that awaited if she chose to reveal herself. Yet the weight of the lie suffocated her, each breath becoming more labored as time slipped away. Just as despair threatened to consume her, a soft voice called from the fire. "Fable, we need you. Come sing with us." The urgency in her sister's tone sparked both hope and dread within her. How could she join them in song while trapped in a web of deceit? To refuse would mean losing them forever. Just then the moon broke through the clouds, casting light on her dilemma. The moment stretched, yet ticked away like a clock in her mind, now or never. She stood, trembling, at the brink of revelation or ruin. Chapter 5 Echoes of Dusk. The dusk crept into Whispering Mound Marsh, wrapping the world in a muted embrace. Shadows stretched as the pale moon peeked through the veil of clouds, casting an ethereal glow across the glimmering waters. The air, thick with the rich scent of damp earth and a hint of wildflowers, tugged at Fable's senses, drawing her deeper into the marsh's embrace. The ground squelched beneath her worn boots, each step sinking slightly into the soft earth as the whispers of the willow trees brushed against her skin like ghostly fingers. Eerie calls of distant night creatures echoed, intertwining with the rustle of leaves, a haunting lullaby that mirrored the turmoil within her heart. Fable paused at the edge of the central mound, its grassy rise looming like a guardian of secrets.
The mist curled around her ankles, cool and damp, as if urging her to step closer. She gazed at the bioluminescent algae shimmering in the water, casting a soft, starry glow that danced across her face. Each flicker felt like a heartbeat, a reminder of the life that pulsed beneath the surface. The sharp tang of desperation coated her tongue, the bitter realization that the truths she had hidden were now threatening to drown her. Would confronting her family bring clarity or doom? The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices echoing her thoughts. Fable, liar, truth. They wound around her like tendrils of mist, and she shivered, the warmth of the day slipping away with the light. Images of her family's faces flickered in her mind, their eyes full of disappointment and hurt. The burden of their betrayal felt like a heavy cloak she could not shake off. As the wind gusted through the willows, their branches swayed and danced, urging her to make a choice. The interplay of light and shadow on the ground mirrored her turmoil, a reminder that she stood at a crossroads, reveal herself or remain hidden in the darkness. With a deep breath she stepped onto the mound, the grass brushing against her skin, alive and electric. The air was thick with the scent of decay and life intertwined, a bittersweet reminder of the choices she had made. She closed her eyes, allowing the cool breeze to wash over her, hoping it would carry away her doubts. The marsh, both eerie and enchanting, felt like a living entity, breathing alongside her. The ground beneath her pulsed with a rhythm that matched her heartbeat, drawing her into a dance with her fears. The dark water reflected the moonlight, a mirror to her soul. She had to decide. "What do I do?" she whispered into the twilight, the sound swallowed by the marsh's secrets. The night deepened, and the whispers faded, leaving only the sound of her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Fable stood on the mound, feeling the weight of the marsh's history pressing against her back, its chill wrapped.
Fable Umber perched on the edge of Whispering Mound Marsh, the water reflecting the dusky sky, a canvas of purples and blacks swirling together like her thoughts. The relic lay beside her, cold and heavy, a tangible reminder of her family's betrayal. Time pressed against her chest, a relentless weight that matched the whispers of the marsh, echoes of secrets long buried. If she didn't confront her family before the week ended, she would be trapped in a lie forever. Urgency coiled in her gut, twisting tighter with every heartbeat, pushing her to make a choice, speak the truth or remain silent, preserving the fragile facade around her. This moment, both dreaded and enticing, carried the promise of liberation. The marsh seemed to breathe around her, the whispers becoming a cacophony, each voice a thread of her family's melody interwoven with betrayal. Fable's heart raced. She could almost hear a clock ticking, counting down the days left to confront the truth. What if they reject me? The thought suffocated her, a crumpling weight against her chest. She glanced at the relic, its surface glinting in the fading light, so much power in its history, yet so much pain in what it represented. Keeping quiet seemed like an option, but at what cost? The thought of her family's pain twisted inside her, battling against her own guilt. She wanted to scream, to release the pressure building within her, but the fear of losing them silenced her. Would honesty shatter the bonds that held them together? Fable rose, pacing the muddy bank, her mind racing with possibilities. Each step sank into the marsh, a reminder of how deep the betrayal ran. 3 days left, only 3 days until it's too late, she whispered, heart pounding. Her family's laughter echoed, their voices harmonizing in songs of love and unity. But beneath that melody lay a discord she could no longer ignore. What would happen if she shattered their illusion? Would they hate her, or would they understand? The weight of the relic felt heavier, a symbol of her struggle, an anchor to the truth she feared to face. Her breath quickened, the air thickening around her, stifling her resolve. I can't let fear win, I must speak up. But the images of her family, their smiles, their trust, clouded her judgment. The choice loomed larger than ever. The marsh grew darker, shadows stretching like fingers across the water, and Fable froze. An echo of laughter rang in her ears, twisting her gut. What if the truth splintered them beyond repair? Panic tightened her chest, and regret surged within her. She could picture it, the disappointment in their eyes, the songs they would no longer sing together. A shiver ran down her spine as panic clawed at her throat. The relentless ticking of time became a reminder that the moment. Dusk draped its cloak over the Whispering Mound Marsh, shadows stretching like whispered secrets across the water. Fable Umber stood at the water's edge, the relic cold and heavy in her grasp, pulsing with dark energy that caught the last slivers of daylight. She declared her intention to confront her family,
each word a fragile promise against the weight of her guilt. The air thickened with the scent of damp earth and decay, mingling with the sharp tang of her resolve. Behind her, her brother lingered, a spectre of childhood memories and shared laughter. Would he stand with her, or would he be another voice in the chorus of betrayal echoing within? The marsh crackled with voices from the past, curling around Fable like tendrils of fog. Each syllable echoed her fears, sliding beneath her skin. She turned the relic over in her hands, tracing the intricate carvings with trembling fingers. Memories surged, her mother's laughter, her father's stern gaze, all woven into the fabric of the family she could soon unravel. The weight of each choice pressed against her chest, an iron band tightening with every heartbeat. What if they can't forgive me? The thought chilled her like the evening air. She locked her jaw, steeling herself against the tide of uncertainty. The truth, once unleashed, could reshape everything, but could she bear the silence that lay in waiting? Silence wrapped around the marsh like a heavy fog, pressing in on her from all sides. Fable's heart thudded in her ears, a primal rhythm underscoring her fear. She glanced over her shoulder, half expecting her brother to vanish, to retreat to the shadows, but there he stood, eyes reflecting the fading light, a silent plea. She stepped forward, the water lapping at her feet, cool and grounding. The relic pulsed again, as if it wanted her to spill the secrets that had tied them together for too long. "I can't keep hiding," she whispered, the words barely escaping her lips. A gust of wind swept through the trees, rustling leaves like 1,000 voices urging her on. I owe them the truth, yet the thought of their disappointment lodged like a stone in her throat. Would honesty fracture their bond? Fable inhaled, tasting the bitter tang of fear mingled with resolve. The marsh hummed with the weight of centuries, its secrets steeped in the dusk. Her brother's silhouette shifted, stepping into the slanting light, a reminder of their shared past. She wanted to turn away, to flee back into the safety of silence, but the relic burned against her palm, a reminder of the chaos she had woven. What could be lost? The question hung, a pendulum swinging between possibility and despair. She locked eyes with him, searching for reassurance, for a sign that he would understand. But the shadows deepened, and the truth felt like a chasm between them, widening with every breath. In that moment, clarity. Dusk draped its velvet cloak over the whispering mound marsh, the air rich with the scent of damp earth and secrets long buried. Fable Umber stood at the water's edge, the relic's weight pressing down on her palms as the marsh came alive with urgent whispers. Each rustle of reeds felt like an echo from the past, urging her to confront the betrayal that had fractured her family. She clutched the relic tightly, knowing that the song she had composed could either bridge the chasms of deceit or plunge her deeper into darkness. With time slipping away, every tick of the clock seemed louder, a relentless reminder that silence could mean losing everything she cherished. Fable faced a crossroads, to reveal the truth and risk everything, or to remain silent, trapped in the web of lies. The air thickened with tension as the shadows deepened around her. The relic pulsed with a frantic energy that matched the rhythm of her racing heart. Echoes of past melodies filled her mind, memories of joyous laughter now overshadowed by dread. The thought of revealing the truth clawed at her insides. What if it shattered the delicate bond still holding her family together? The marsh whispered once more, a reminder that the truth could either liberate her or ensnare her forever. With only 3 days left, she felt the pressure mounting, each moment stretching painfully as she weighed her options. Would she risk it all for the chance to heal? A chill breeze rustled the reeds, sending a shiver down Fable's spine. She stepped back from the water, the reality of her family's betrayal settling heavily in her gut. Her fingers trembled around the relic, its smooth surface stark against her frayed emotions. The truth loomed ahead, a dark cloud ready to engulf her. What if they turned away from her? Each moment of hesitation felt like an act of betrayal toward the very connection she craved. She needed to sing, to reveal, yet the words remained lodged in her throat, heavy and unyielding. As the sky deepened into shades of indigo and violet, Fable stole a glance at the horizon, where the last light of day faded. The clock ticked louder, each second a reminder that time was running out to mend the rifts threatening to tear her family apart. Guilt gnawed at her, relentless and persistent. The whispers of the marsh urged her to act, but the fear of loss kept her rooted in place. You can't let fear control you, she reminded herself, yet the thought felt insignificant against the weight of reality. Images of her family flickered in her mind, each face a mirror reflecting love and betrayal, suffocating her with the fear of losing them forever.
Anxious breaths escaped her, quick and shallow, as the Marsh's whispers drowned in the storm of her thoughts. Remaining silent meant living a lie, festering.
The whispering mound marsh unfolded beneath a pale, haunting moonlight, casting a silvery veil over the undulating ground. Fable stood at its edge, the damp earth cool beneath her translucent form, the scent of wild flowers stirring memories of sunlit days long past. Clutching the relic tightly, its surface smooth and cool, she felt a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling within her. Whispers danced through the air, a chorus of warnings and regrets urging her to retreat. Yet tonight she needed to break the silence that had enshrouded her family for far too long. The haunting melodies of her past echoed in her mind, intertwining with the rustle of reeds, urging her to sing her truth amidst the shadows. Fable inhaled deeply, the floral scent wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. Laughter once rang here, a joyful symphony in the air. She recalled her brother teasing her about her penchant for old songs. "Fable, you and your bloody ghost stories, when will you let them go?" The memory twisted in her heart, a bittersweet ache threatening to spill over, but she forced it down, focusing on the relic. Her fingers trembled as she traced its edges, the weight of betrayal pressing against her chest. A sudden gust of wind sent shivers through her, the whispers intensified, drowning out her thoughts. "Speak, Fable, speak," they urged, their voices weaving into the night, a tapestry of her family's pain and secrets. Eyes closed, she felt the ground shift beneath her, the soft squelch of mud echoing her unease. The shadows beckoned, enticing her to linger, to avoid the truth that clawed at her throat. But the darkness that had once consumed her loomed large, and revealing the truth felt like a potential wound only deeper than before. "Tonight I must be brave," she said to the wind, her voice trembling yet melodic. The marsh held its breath, waiting for her next move. In that moment she hovered between past and present, suspended in a reckoning. Just as she gathered the courage to step forward, a rustle in the bushes shattered the silence, a sharp crack that sent panic coursing through her. Was it family or something else lurking in the shadows? Fable's breathing quickened, the sweet scent of jasmine suddenly mingling with the damp earth, a cruel reminder of the betrayal that had led to her demise. She had once brought those flowers to her sister the day they buried their shared laughter in the marsh's depths. The memory pierced her, and she grounded herself against the pain as the whispers swelled around her. "Let me find my voice? Let me sing for them?" she murmured, her words feeling hollow, consumed by the night. The rustling grew louder, closing in, her heart pounding like a metronome marking time she could no longer afford to waste. The truth gnawed at her insides, desperate to escape, while fear. Chapter 6. Echoes of Betrayal. Fable gasped for air as the stranger's shadow merged with the darkness. The marsh loomed ahead, its thick fog swirling like the ghosts of her past. Whispers curled around her, echoing secrets buried deep, memories twisted and turned, pulling her under, but she had to forge ahead. The ancient melody awaited, a siren song promising answers hidden beneath layers of betrayal. Echoes bounced off the gnarled trees, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers. She couldn't linger. Urgency drummed in her chest, each step dragging her deeper into the murky embrace of whispering mound marsh. Fable pressed on feet, squelching in the wet earth. The air thickened with the scent of moss and decay, a reminder of all she had lost. Shadows flickered at the edge of her vision. Voices surged, a cacophony of laughter and cries tugging at her sanity. "Fable, don't forget us," one whispered, the tone sweet but laced with venom. She shook her head, trying to banish the intrusion, but they clung to her, each syllable a thread weaving her past into the present. The sound of her own footsteps felt like an anchor, grounding her, even as the whispers threatened to sweep her away. A pulse of light shimmered through the fog, a beacon promising solace. She hesitated, heart racing with determination. The whispers intensified, swirling like a tempest, dragging her deeper into their murky depths. "You'll never find it," another voice taunted, mocking her resolve. Fable clenched her jaw, fists tight at her sides. She couldn't give in. Not now. Not when the truth was so close, so tantalizingly near. She lunged toward the flicker, the weight of her fear propelling her forward into the unknown. The alcove unfolded before her. A hidden sanctuary draped in shadows. The melody drifted, soft yet haunting, mingling with the rustle of leaves. Fable stepped inside, a tightness gripping her throat. The echoes of betrayal began to untangle,
revealing images of her family intertwined with sorrow and regret. A figure, familiar yet foreign, appeared in the melody, a face she'd longed to see but feared to confront. The truth shimmered like a mirage just out of reach, yet she could sense it. With every note, the weight on her shoulders lightened, replaced by a surge of hope and a longing for connection. But just as the melody crescendoed, the whispers clawed back, fierce and relentless. "You can't trust them," they shrieked. Fable staggered, teetering on the brink of revelation. The melody faded, leaving only silence, and the lingering question, was she ready to face what lay hidden in the echoes? The light dimmed, shadows deepening around her. The marsh churned with memories, the truth.
Fable Umber stood at the edge of whispering Mound Marsh, the morning fog curling around her like a shroud. The weight of her family's betrayal pressed down on her, suffocating in its intensity. Time was running out. If she failed to connect with her family through the song before the week ended, the consequences would be irreversible. She inhaled deeply, the damp air filling her lungs, and turned her attention to the ancient melody echoing in her mind. It danced just out of reach, laced with secrets that could shatter the lies she'd lived for so long. Today was the day she would uncover the truth, or forever remain a stranger to her own past. The whispers began as a soft murmur like the rustling of leaves, but quickly morphed into a dissonant clamor that clawed at her sanity. Fable winced, pressing her palms against her ears, trying to block out the cacophony. Memories of laughter twisted into taunts, shadows of her family flickered just beyond her sight. "Focus," she muttered. Her heart thudded in her chest, a frantic rhythm echoing her anxiety. The melody pulsed beneath the chaos, begging for release. But just as she grasped a thread of it, the whispers swelled, drowning her in a tide of betrayal. Each note slipped through her fingers, leaving her gasping for clarity in the tempest of sound. Fable's breath quickened as she fought to steady herself, but the chaos only grew louder. Images flashed before her eyes, betrayal, sadness, and anger intertwined like vines choking her resolve. "You'll never uncover the truth." A voice shrieked from the depths of her memories, making her stagger backward. Her fingers trembled, clutching the damp earth for support. 3 hours remained until the sun set, a relentless reminder that she had to find the melody before it was too late. Her family's secrets felt like an anchor, dragging her into despair. Desperation clawed at her throat as she closed her eyes, trying to drown out the disarray. She could feel the melody pulsing beneath the chaos, begging for release. "Come on, Fable, focus," she shouted. But the whispers twisted her thoughts, spiraling into visions of betrayal that left her reeling. Each revelation felt like a dagger, piercing her heart with guilt and fear. She was so close, yet the closer she got, the more unmoored she felt. The truth beckoned, but could she bear the weight of it? Seconds slipped away, each one a reminder of her dwindling time. Just when Fable thought she might break through the chaos, a blinding flash of vision seized her, a scene of betrayal so vivid it burned into her mind. She staggered back, nearly collapsing as the weight of the truth crashed over her. The melody faded, leaving only the echoes of her ancestors' pain. Tears stung her eyes as she fought to recover her breath. She was closer to the truth. As dusk settled over the whispering Mound Marsh, the air thickened with the scent of damp earth and wild berries. Fable Umber stood at the water's edge, the reeds swaying gently in the breeze, their whispers echoing an ancient melody that danced through her memory. The scent of marsh root stew simmered at home, rich and inviting. But the melody, once a soothing lullaby, now felt tainted by the betrayal that had shattered her family. With her eyes closed, the wind wrapped around her like a shroud, urging her to confront the ghosts of her past. Fable reached into the pocket of her simple woven cattail dress and retrieved a small hand-carved trinket, a token left by her mother before vanishing into shadows of betrayal. She placed it on a nearby stone, a silent offering to the spirits of the marsh. The wind shifted, carrying a distant sound that mingled with the melody, a reminder of the shared laughter and stories she once enjoyed during communal meals. The memory of roasted frog legs, crisped to perfection, and the tang of sedge fronds salad felt both comforting and cruel. "God's willing, I can find my way back to them," she said softly, the words hanging in the air. The reeds rustled again, but this time it felt different, more urgent. Fable's pulse quickened as she glimpsed a shadow skimming just beneath the surface of the water. The unsettling sound pulled at her instincts. Was it a mere fish or something more sinister lurking in the depths?
She hesitated, the weight of her mother's teachings pressing down upon her. Engaging in deceit was taboo, and she could almost hear her mother's voice warning against venturing too deep into the Marsh's secrets. Yet the melody called to her, a thread of hope woven through her pain, promising connection if only she dared to listen. With a deep breath, Fable stepped closer to the water, her fingers brushing against the surface, feeling the coolness ripple through her skin. The melody grew louder, echoing in her ears as if the very spirits of the marsh were urging her to reclaim her heritage, memories of her family's lineage. The stories passed down over mound grain porridge flickered in her mind. She had to trust in the song, but the betrayal still lingered like a bitter aftertaste. Just as she began to hum along, a low growl erupted from the depths, startling her. The shadows lengthened around her, a stark reminder that danger lurked even in the most familiar places. Fable backed away from the water, her heart pounding. The melody faded into the background, replaced by the unsettling growl that echoed through the marsh. She glanced back toward the village, where the last flickers of light from her neighbors' homes signaled another gathering around the communal table. She could almost imagine the warmth of
Fable Umber stood at the edge of Whispering Mound Marsh, the air thick with dusk and the scent of damp earth. The melody that had haunted her thoughts all day echoed through the reeds, a siren's call laced with betrayal. If she didn't confront her family before the week ended, the lies would cement around her heart like iron shackles. Time slipped away relentlessly, amplifying the weight of the truth she had hidden for so long. She needed to connect with them through music, to share her deepest self, yet fear clung to her like fog. What if they rejected her? What if she lost them forever? The sound from the marsh deepened, a low hum vibrating in her bones. Her heart raced, each thump a reminder of her impending confrontation. In 3 days she would stand before her family, bearing her soul through song. But the thought of their faces twisted in disappointment sent a shudder through her. How could she reveal the truth without losing everything? Memories of their laughter mingled with the haunting notes, weaving a tapestry of love and treachery that left her breathless. She wanted to sing, to reach out, but the fear of rejection tightened around her throat with every passing moment. Doubt gnawed at her like a hungry wolf. What if they turned away when they heard the truth? What if they saw her not as Fable but as a deceiver? She gazed at the darkened waters, swirling shadows reflecting her turmoil. Fable stood between two diverging paths, the melody of her heart battling against the cacophony of her fears. The wind picked up, whispering secrets of the past and urging her to choose. Could she risk everything for honesty, knowing that the darkness could swallow her whole? Each breath felt shallow as she wrestled with the choice, clinging to the hope of connection or retreating into the safety of silence. Fable's pulse quickened, the burden of her decision weighing heavily upon her. With the sun sinking below the horizon, she clenched her fists, willing herself to act. "The melody of my truth can no longer be silenced," she whispered, the sound swallowed by the marsh. Just as she turned to step forward, a rustling in the reeds rooted her to the spot. A figure emerged from the shadows, eyes glinting with recognition. Fable, they called, disbelief echoing in their voice. The moment of revelation was upon her, and her secret was about to unravel. Would she be ready to face the music? Dusk settled over Whispering Mound Marsh, wrapping everything in a shroud of uncertainty. Fable Umber stood at the water's edge, the familiar melody of her family's song rippling through the air, drawing her closer. She had 3 days to confront the spectre of betrayal looming over her, to reveal the truth hidden beneath layers of deceit. The weight of her family's expectations pressed heavily on her chest, threatening to suffocate her resolve. Every heartbeat urged her to act, to bridge the chasm between her and the truth she longed to share, but fear held her frozen in place. If she didn't connect with them through song before the week ended, the lie would consume her. This was the moment. She could either embrace her honesty or let the darkness swallow her whole. Fable's pulse quickened as the figure stepped closer, their features becoming clearer in the dim light. It was Rowan, her brother, the one person she feared most in this moment. His expression shifted from disbelief to concern, unspoken questions swirling in his eyes. "Fable, what are you doing here?" he asked, stepping into the marsh's dampness. The echoes of the melody faded, replaced by the thumping of her heart. This was it. Either she confronted him now or lost the chance forever, but the memories of betrayal clawed at her, threatening to drown her resolve. If she spoke,
Would it shatter the fragile bond they shared? A lump formed in her throat, stifling her words. Time slipped away, and with each passing second, her courage waned. I was merely lost in the echoes of the song's embrace, Fable managed, her voice shaky. The shadows deepened, twisted memories of their family gathered around the fire, laughter mingling with music, now haunting reminders of her deceit. Rowan's gaze narrowed, suspicion flickering across his face. "You're not merely thinking, are you, hiding behind that veil of melody?" His tone pierced her heart, the accusation sharper than any blade. She wanted to scream that she was no coward, that she had come to face the truth. But the fear of his disappointment gnawed at her insides, making her hesitate. The longer she waited, the more the shadows seemed to close in, pressing against her chest, suffocating her. "You can't keep avoiding this, Fable. If you don't tell us—" His words hung in the air, heavy with expectation, and she knew he was right. If she didn't connect with them by the end of the week, she would be forever trapped in a lie. The marsh whispered secrets around her, but Fable felt deafened by her own thoughts. What should she do? Every option felt like a betrayal. Reveal the truth and risk everything, or keep her family's trust intact, living a lie that would only fester and rot. It was a decision no one should have to make, yet here she...
Chapter 7. Awakening Whispers. Dawn cracked over Whispering Mound Marsh, light bleeding into the fog like a promise. Fable Umber stood at the water's edge, breath shallow, heart racing, as she faced the truth of her existence. Only days remained. If she couldn't connect with her family through the ghost's final song, the truth would slip forever into shadows. "Oh, whisper to me from the shadows, let your song break the silence," she pleaded, urgency lacing her ethereal voice. The ghost lingered just beyond the mist, cloaked in doubt, their eyes reflecting centuries of secrets and fears. The marsh pressed in around her, droplets of dew marking the countdown as time slipped like water through fingers. Fable stepped closer, her voice trembling with anticipation. "Fear holds you tight, but time slips like water through fingers. Sing, and break the chains of this lie." The ghost hesitated, their form flickering like a candle in the wind. A heavy silence thickened the air, tension rising as the stakes grew. The ghost's turmoil mirrored her own internal battle, and Fable's resolve sharpened. Would the truth remain buried, or could she unearth it before it was too late? The ghost finally opened their mouth, a whisper escaping like smoke, but the words faltered, tangled in uncertainty. A cold weight settled in Fable's stomach. "No, this isn't just about you, it's about all of us," she urged, desperation clawing at her throat. The sun edged higher, casting long shadows that felt like chains binding them both. Fable's mind raced. She needed to break through the fear holding the ghost captive. But how? The marshes whispered around them, reminding her that dawn was not just a time of day. It was a deadline. 3 days left, and the truth might drown in silence. "I understand your fear, but what about mine?" The ghost's voice cracked with vulnerability, a tremor resonating within Fable. "What if I can't? What if I fail?" A shudder ran through her. The fleeting moments slipped away. She stepped closer, reaching out, willing the ghost to see her sincerity. "You won't fail. You'll set us both free. You've held on to this for too long. Please sing your song. Let it guide us home." The ghost's form flickered again, wavering like a reflection on water. Fable's breath caught in her throat, the weight of their shared history pressing down like a stone. The consequences of silence loomed larger than the dawn itself. With a shuddering breath, the ghost began again, their voice a fragile thread weaving through the air. Fable leaned in, hope mingling with dread, but just as the first notes filled the marsh, a sudden gust of wind swept through, silencing the song and stealing the ghost's confidence. Morning light filtered through the heavy fog of Whispering Mound Marsh, casting a ghostly glow upon the shimmering surface of the water. The air was thick with the damp earthiness of the marsh, punctuated by the sweet scent of wildflowers and the eerie calls of unseen creatures. Fable Umber stood before the ghost, her pulse quickening as she grasped the ethereal hand, chilled by its uncertainty. "You must trust in the whispers of fate," she urged, her voice quivering with a mix of desperation and hope. The burden of their intertwined fates bore down on them, heavy with deception. Time was slipping away. If the ghost didn't sing their final song before the week ended, Fable would be forever trapped in the shadows of deceit, cut off from the music that held her family together.
Each second lost was another chance slipping away, a shiver of urgency coursing through her. The ghost's translucent form flickered, wavering like the mist around them. Doubt clouded their eyes, shadows of past betrayals lurking just beneath the surface. What if they don't forgive me? The words trembled on the breeze, heavy with fear. Fable's heart raced. They shall embrace you. Let your voice rise like the dawn, unveiling your true essence. The urgency in her voice surged like a tide. The wind whispered through the trees, a reminder of the dwindling hours. 3 days remained before the truth would be buried forever beneath layers of sorrow. Please, let them hear your voice. With a deep breath, the ghost opened their mouth, a tentative sound escaping their lips. The first notes trembled and faltered, revealing the pain of years spent in silence. Fable's heart ached as she listened, feeling each quaver like a knife in her chest. That's it. You're almost there. But just as the ghosts began to find their rhythm, a sudden gust of wind howled through the marsh, drowning the fragile melody in a cacophony of chaos. A wave of dread washed over Fable. If they couldn't find the strength now, what hope was there for tomorrow? The ghost's voice cracked, a haunting echo of their past. I can't do this. Fable gripped her hair, her mind racing. We are bound by the echoes of destiny. We shall prevail. Sweat trickled down her back, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The clock loomed in her mind, its relentless ticking a drumbeat of urgency. You are woven from the threads of starlight. Believe in that brilliance. But the ghost hesitated, their eyes filled with the weight of unspoken fears. Would they shatter under the pressure? Would Fable lose everything? As the wind howled again, swirling the mist around them, the ghost faltered, their voice fading into silence. Fable's heart.
Morning light spilled across the whispering mound marsh, casting an ethereal glow on the bioluminescent algae that clung to the water's surface, sparkling like scattered stars. The damp earth released a rich, loamy aroma, mingling with the sweet scent of wildflowers that dared to bloom in this haunted place. Fable's boots squelched softly against the marshy ground as she moved toward the central grassy mound, its silhouette shrouded in mist and ancient willow trees. Their long, trailing branches swayed gently, whispering secrets of the past, while the calls of distant night creatures echoed a haunting lullaby, urging her onward into the thickening fog. With each step, her pulse quickened, and the air grew heavy with fear and determination, tension coiling around her like the fog itself. Fable turned to the ghost, her heart raced, her breath quickening as the fog coiled and twisted around them. You have to sing. Let them hear you, her voice, steady yet urgent, pierced the cold air, but the ghost's features remained obscured, fear etched in their translucent face. Fable reached out, her fingers brushing against the cool, damp fabric of the ghost's form, grounding them both in this moment. The ground squelched beneath her, a reminder of the marsh's depths, and the ghost's hesitation sent a chill through the air, as if the very fog threatened to silence their song once more. The ghost's voice, a faint whisper, fought against the suffocating fog. I can't face them. Not again. Fable's determination surged, igniting a warmth within her that pushed back against the chill. You're stronger than this. Your song matters. The air crackled with unspoken tension as she stepped closer, the earthy scent mingling with an underlying sorrow, a bittersweet reminder of what was lost. The willows rustled, their branches weaving a curtain of mystery around them, swaying as if urging the ghost to break free from the shackles of their past. Just as the ghost began to gather strength, a dark shadow emerged from the fog, shifting the atmosphere like a sudden storm. Fable froze, her breath hitching as the figure stepped closer, an echo from the ghost's past materializing before them. The sweet scent of wildflowers faded into stale memories. The ghost recoiled, a shudder running through their form, and Fable felt despair threaten to erode her resolve. No, do not let them take your voice, she shouted over the growing cacophony of whispers, desperate to pull the ghost back from the brink. The shadow loomed, a reminder of the betrayals that had silenced the ghost for too long, but Fable stood her ground, her heart drummed a relentless rhythm. You are not alone, she cried, her voice cutting through the fog, the marsh alive with the pulse of her determination. Dawn unfurled over Whispering Mound Marsh like a silken veil, the soft light filtering through the lingering fog that clung to the ground. A cool, damp breeze brushed against Fable's skin, carrying the earthy scent of wet soil and the sweet, heady perfume of wildflowers that bloomed defiantly in the shadows.
Each step she took caused the ground to squelch softly beneath her boots, sending ripples through the murky water surrounding the grassy mound. Ancient willow trees stood sentinel, their long trailing branches whispering secrets to the wind. The air was thick with tension, a fragile balance of hope and despair, and Fable's pulse quickened, urgency driving her forward as she approached her mission. Fable inhaled deeply, the rich aroma of the marsh filling her lungs, mingling with the unmistakable chill of fear that seeped through her resolve. She addressed the ghost, her voice steady yet soft, as if coaxing the truth from the depths of the fog. "I know you're there. It's time to sing your song. Let it out. You're safe here." The words hung heavy in the air, weighted with the promise of healing, yet the ghost remained shrouded, their voice muffled by the thickening mist. A distant croak of a frog echoed through the stillness, a reminder of the life thriving here, even in the shadows. Determination surged within her as she stepped closer, the dampness of the ground seeping into her boots. As she reached out, fingertips brushing against the cool, wet grass of the mound, she sensed a warmth radiating through the chill. The ghosts stirred, their form beginning to coalesce, the fog lifting momentarily as a tremulous note escaped their lips, haunting yet beautiful. The sound enveloped Fable, igniting a flicker of hope deep within her. But just as the melody began to weave its spell, a fierce wind swept through the marsh, rolling the fog back in like a dark tide. The ghost's voice faltered, swallowed by the swirling mist. Fable staggered back, the sudden chill biting at her skin, her breath catching in her throat. "No. Please," her voice pierced the cacophony, a desperate plea against the relentless wind. The fog thickened once more, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud, but she stood her ground, fueled by the hope ignited by the ghost's song. The air shimmered with unspoken words, the marsh holding its breath as if waiting for her to bridge the chasm of fear between them. She could taste the dampness on her lips, the promise of rain lingering just beyond the horizon, in the eerie quiet that followed the storm of sound. Fable felt the weight of the moment pressing down, a fragile thread of connection hanging in the balance. Would she be able to reach through the fog, to ignite the song once more, or would the ghost remain forever lost in silence?
Dusk draped over Whispering Mound Marsh, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers, a fragrant reminder of laughter now long silenced. A rhythmic pulse echoed forgotten melodies lingering in the air. Fable Umber stood at the water's edge, shadows stretching like fingers across the marsh, curling around her as if urging her closer. Night creatures began their haunting calls, weaving an eerie symphony that mirrored her own turbulent emotions. The weight of past betrayals loomed like storm clouds overhead, compelling her to confront the specter of regret that haunted these grounds. Fable closed her eyes, tilting her head, as if listening to the whispers of the wind, which carried the faintest trace of jasmine. It tugged at her memory, echoing a time when laughter filled the air and music flowed like water. The ghost's once vibrant face, now entwined with regret, drifted through the marshy grounds. How cruel the world had been! Jealousy had twisted love into betrayal. "Sing for them, please," she urged, her voice a soft, urgent melody. The ghost hovered nearby, shimmering like a wisp of smoke, caught between the past and a longing for release. But silence hung heavy like mist, choking the ghost's voice before it could break free. The ghost shifted, a faint shimmer of sorrow reflected in the dark water. Fable's chest tightened, the resonance of their shared pain unmistakable. "You know they're here, waiting for you. They need your song to find peace, to forgive what was lost." Her words wrapped around the ghost, a gentle coaxing. She stepped closer, feeling the marsh's cold earth suck at her feet, grounding her in the present. "Let them hear your heart. Let them feel your truth." Fable's fingers brushed against the cool surface of the water, sending ripples outward, an invitation to the ghost to join her in this moment of vulnerability. The air pressed against her chest, heavy with anticipation. With a shiver, Fable leaned into the ghost's presence, the faint scent of freshly cut grass lingering in her mind, a reminder of summers spent with family. Wistfulness tugged at her as she whispered, "You remember the songs we sang together? The way they echoed through the trees?" The ghost trembled, a flicker of recognition in their shimmering form. Fable's heart swelled with hope, yet doubt gnawed at her edges like a relentless tide. What if their family could not forgive? What if the betrayal was too deep? Fable lifted her chin, summoning the courage that had long eluded her. "It's time, dear spirit. The night is fleeting. Feel the music swell within you.
Let it rise, you are not alone in this. Sing for them, and let them hear your sorrow, your